Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Concept Chat, the new approach for mobile eCards. Today marks the launch of a new series of short and sharp webinars Concept will be hosting every 4 to 6 weeks to educate you on important trends and products in the market. Today's webinar will be hosted by myself, Katie O'Rourke, Global Business Development Manager for Concept New York, and also Lex Sadler, Head of Production. It will also feature our special guest, Natalie Conkle from Kirkland Ellis. Unfortunately, Joni Chan from Paul Hastings has been called into a meeting and won't be able to join us. For those of you unfamiliar with Concept, we provide marketing technology and services to corporate and professional firms globally, which includes email marketing, mobile apps, and other digital empowerment tools. Our agenda is going to cover benefits of sending an eCard versus a print card, distributing your eCard, reporting and analytics, creative process, technology to create mobile eCards, and concepts and themes. So to begin, eCards versus print cards, what are the benefits? Time. Take the pain out of traditional hard copy card signing days. I know you have all experienced this, and it's certainly a very large and complex job. Save time pre, during, and post-holiday card season. There'll be no need to sort through that returned mail in January. Schedule an eCard to be sent on a specific date and time. Cost. More effective than print cards. Save on designing, printing, postage, and certainly man hours. There's no need for those eCard signing days. And you can send to recipients at any time after the initial bulk send has actually been conducted. The pervasiveness of mobile. In a recent study, respondents were asked what new developments will affect their email marketing program in the next 12 months. 58% said the pervasiveness of mobile, closely followed by social media and the use of engagement metrics. Considering this, an eCard that is mobile friendly is certainly something that should not be overlooked. Creative. eCards are more engaging than printed cards. They're innovative and they use cutting-edge designs which embrace technology. They're interactive with animations and sound, and they deliver a rich and engaging brand experience to any mobile device. They're ultra-personalized for those that matter most to your organization. Reports. Reporting can be accessed by all of your client-facing teams when using Concept Send, our email marketing platform, or Concept Greet, our dedicated eCard platform. This allows you to monitor the activity and interactions of your contacts and understand their levels of engagement. Next comes your distribution options. Many Concept clients use Concept's email marketing platform, Concept Send, to distribute their eCard. Others use Concept Greet, a simple and easy-to-use eCard wizard that empowers your firm's relationship owners to personalize messages to their key clients. It gives your marketing team central control of the eCard setup and editing permissions, whilst allowing relationship owners to add their personal touch and send it themselves. If you already have an email marketing platform, you can also distribute your eCard through this channel. I'm now going to pass to our special guest, Natalie, to discuss some of the reasons Kirkland and Ellis have chosen to do an eCard for the past few years and the importance of reporting and analytics. Over to you, Natalie.
Hi. Like Katie was saying, most of the factors involved convenience, time, and cost. Well, time is really a cost when you think about the law firm business. When you consider, having an attorney that makes $1,000 an hour, sitting for 4 hours signing, 100 cards, that's quite substantial. But the biggest cost for us was actually, the paper cards themselves. The last year we did cards was 2008, and we spent close to $120,000 on holiday cards. That was under 50,000 cards because we, of course, you want to send nice cards, so we, got the nice Cranes cards with the person, with the engraving for our firm, and then we also picked up the postage cost of those cards. And I look back, and during that time, postage was about 42 cents, so we're looking at about $20,000 worth of postage. So not even including the attorney's time to sign the card, which is substantial. We're looking at, close to $150,000 with postage, handling, shipping, all that kind of stuff. So, and we did about 45,000 cards. So comparing with what we spend on eCards, we spend about 7% of that total looked like, I mean, just a quick math total on eCards, which allowed us to reach, I mean, we don't send it out to 45,000 people, but one thing we found with the holiday cards, the paper cards, is people order a lot more than they actually end up needing. And then because they're customized every year, we end up with a lot of waste. So we might order 45,000 cards, but I would estimate that probably only 15 to 20,000 of those cards were actually being sent. So they would send this back to us, and we would have stacks and piles of stuff that we'd have to recycle. It looks like our yearly total for sending out eCards, we send it to about 10,000 people, give or take a few thousand every year. But the attorneys are now, the first year in 2009, I'll have to say it was a struggle to try to get them to sign on in the old way. Of course, the younger attorneys were more apt to embrace that, but the older partners, really liked their cards. But as years went by, we've gotten a lot more participation, and we even have some of the old standbys who don't even own computers having people submitting email addresses for their lists. We do mostly just one big major card, but we do allow, for certain special partners, we do customize certain ones. So it allows our big partners to feel like they're getting a special sort of white glove treatment. And in this way, also the associates can take part in the program, which we didn't allow before with the paper cards, just as a cost problem. Let's see, is there anything else?
Natalie, what about the reporting and analytics that you actually get back from the eCard?
Yeah, well, that's great because we can actually, unlike the paper cards where we are just sending them off into the ether in some ways, we can find out actually which cards got delivered, who got them, who opened them. And a lot of times the attorneys who submit lists will come back and say, to use it as a follow-up point if somebody opened their card or not. Or if they didn't open it up, he can forward it on personally through his email account to just make another point of contact. None of this was possible with the paper cards, obviously. The only feedback oftentimes you would get would be like a return mail, which just created havoc for our CRM people, which is nice now because we can simply download a list of all the bounce backs and go back to the attorneys and say, hey, obviously you're not in touch with these people anymore, and we refine the list, delete them, and every year our list gets a little bit better, our bounce backs rates get a little bit better. And, it's a work in progress. We've been doing it for 4 years, and this will be our 5th year. And, we're looking forward to it. In the past couple of years, we've sort of even gotten on our own shoes and designed our own cards. But, of course, having Concep still animating for us because that's a little bit out of our time budget. But yeah, it's been a very cost-effective, and I never get any complaints about it anymore. I mean, maybe the first year I had the gripes. But since then, everybody's been on board with it and really into it.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Natalie. Some really good insight there. So, Lex, can you talk us through the creative side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Katie, and thanks, Natalie, for that information. So, I guess the creative part of the eCard is what everyone sees and what everyone wants to get involved in. And there's really, I guess, a couple of components to the eCard creative. There's the inbox template, and then there's the rich media component. I guess by the rich media component, I mean the animation or the interactive part of that eCard. So the template is really what appears in the inbox, and it's usually a combination of HTML, text, and graphics. If you're using a platform like Send or Concep Greet, your personalization will appear here, along with the graphic prompting the user to click through to the rich media component, which will appear in the web browser. Unfortunately, there are still limitations with inbox environments, especially with Outlook, disallowing video, flash, etc. in the inbox. So any of that rich media has to be viewed in a browser. So this rich media component of the card can really be delivered in a few different ways. Flash is still pretty popular, and we feel still the best way of getting this media experience across. High definition video is another option, and this is actually a part of every eCard that we do. And then the third option would be a dedicated microsite, and by microsite I simply mean web pages that contain things like animation but also interactive elements, perhaps buttons, voting systems and so on, that we have created in the past. So, given the increasing adoption of mobile devices, especially iOS devices, which have seen an explosion of proliferation through the professional services market, it's become a consideration that eCard Creative is cross-browser and cross-device compatible. While we're not necessarily designing a dedicated eCard for mobiles, the uptake is still not quite there yet. It is important that everything we do translates to that mobile environment. So as I said before, even with new emerging technologies such as HTML5 is a bit of a hot topic, things like Flash and video still seem to be the most compatible solutions for our client base. HTML5 is something that a lot of clients are discussing with us. It does require newer browsers which seem to be less accessible to our client base and our clients' clients. I think the majority are on IE8 or below, and some of those new rich technologies require more advanced browsers than are currently out there in that client base. So Concep's animated eCards are 100% custom designed and animated in Adobe Flash and delivered as a combination of Flash and HD video for iOS devices. So basically there's a high definition video file that will sit in the background and play to those devices, and we use some clever programming to detect the recipient's browsing device and serve the best media format to them. So it's really a seamless experience for the end user. If they open this up on their desktop when they first receive it, they'll most likely view the Flash version, and if they look at this again later on their iOS device, they'll see the video. For Android users, Flash isn't so much of an issue as they all have access to that. So the Flash files that we work with are pretty small files. They're highly compressed, and they're actually smaller than most media files that you would see on the web today. So the experience is pretty fast. It's a fast-loading eCard. And we use a non-branded Vimeo Pro account to serve the streaming video. Vimeo is regarded as one of the best, I guess, video delivery services in the industry. And a non-branded Vimeo account basically uses their streaming technology to serve that video without any suggestion that the recipient is on Vimeo. That card is not publicly accessible. It's simply embedded within an HTML page that will sit on your website. And then there are some cards that require an interactive element. This kind of stuff we build in HTML, and we've done this successfully in the past for clients such as Chambliss, Boehner and Stoffel, who required some form of voting interactivity. They actually had a number of charities that they would allow recipients to vote for a particular charity to have a donation made in their name. And that eCard was distributed via Concep Send, and it actually allowed, I guess, recipients to vote only once based on their email address. So there was some additional programming there. So the creative process, it's a pretty straightforward three-part process, and we can work with our clients, I guess, on all three or simply one of these if that's needed. Process basically starts with the conceptualization, and this is briefing our clients and understanding what their message is. Is it more than happy holidays? Is there another event that can be tied in with this? We have done eCards in the past that have involved office moves, anniversaries, and so on. We try and get an understanding of the tone of the eCard, how we're going to deliver that message, and look at some examples. We look at some reference material and so on, so that we can go ahead and start documenting some written concepts. And we usually deliver two written concepts. One is often the more creative, and one is the more conservative, and we either end up with one or the other or somewhere in the middle. But once everyone's agreed on that written concept, we can go ahead and start creating the artwork for that. So we design a series of keyframes. They're basically the main frames in an animation that will outline from start to finish how that animation is going to look, and if there's other elements, we document how we interact with those elements, whether they be voting buttons and so on and so forth. Obviously, there's an opportunity to refine and provide feedback on those storyboards and those keyframes, and we go through that process until everyone's happy and agrees on what the final product is going to look like. And I will say from experience of having done hundreds of these over the last 5 years that the actual animated product at the end looks, I would say, around 99% as the same as the storyboards that we provided. And then, of course, the final step is to produce, and this is where the majority of our work is. We go ahead and we start animating and writing the programming and so on for this eCard. So I mentioned that it's a 3-step process, but we can work with firms on one or all of these. And in the case of Kirkland and Ellis, as Natalie mentioned, in recent years, her creative team has handled these first 2 steps. So they conceptualize, they actually create the artwork. We provide them a specification for that artwork as far as the resolution they need to provide it, the format and so on. But it means that they get to do all the back and forward, get the approvals, get everyone's input within the firm before they approach us, and we can give them a good idea of what it's going to take to produce their idea. And we can also provide guidance along the way to ensure that we're not shooting too high as far as an elaborate eCard animation. So if we start to look at the hot topics, which is probably cost and timing. Cost is a hard one to define. As I said, these are all 100% custom. None of these are templated. And they're all based on hours worked. There is an average, which I could probably share offline. But the basic breakdown of costs is normally distributed, I would say, 30% conceptualization, 70% production. And these projects usually take 4 to 6 weeks, depending on approval times and so on. I will say from experience that the majority of time taken in these projects is getting those approvals. So if your firm does have a strong creative team with those strong ideas that can deliver artwork, it will save you time and cost as far as getting an eCard developed. And again, like I said, we can provide that guidance along the way to make sure that your team is doing what's required.
Thanks for that, Lex. I'd now like to open it up to all you to invite you to ask questions through the question box on the webinar panel. And I can see we've got our first question that's come through. So Lex, this one's actually for you.
Okay.
Can I include signatures within the animation?
Not necessarily. The only reason being is that while the flash file could be dynamic in as much as it can pull data in, we do need that pre-rendered video file to be available to those iOS users. So generally where clients have wished to include signatures within the actual flash, we have done it, but we've said that, okay, we need to lock these names and not lock these signatures down before we go ahead and produce this. There is an option to do versions, and we've done multiple language versions in the past, and we can host those on different URLs if we need to. I will say, and I guess one thing I didn't mention during the production side of things is once we do get to the end of the process and put everything together, we actually provide our clients, with the files to be hosted on their websites. So, for example, it might be kirkland.com/holidaycard. It might be a dedicated URL, but the whole experience for the end user is branded per client.
Great, thanks. We've got a second question here. Is the email message that you send mobile friendly? So I'll actually answer this. It really depends on where you're actually sending that email message through. If you're sending it through Concep Send or Concep Greet, the email message is mobile friendly. So what you'll actually see in your inbox is the template of that actual eCard. So it might be an image that reflects the animation or something to do with your brand, and it will have maybe the holiday greeting in it. And this is also where your relationship owners can add any element of personalization. So that might be dear first name, a custom message, and a custom sign-off. And then that template or that graphic will actually link to the animation that we've created for you. I think we've got a second question here. So what types of cards, what occasions have you been asked to design?
Okay, so I'll answer that one. I guess the majority are generic holiday cards. We have done cards for Thanksgiving. It's quite popular. Rosh Hashanah, I think we've created in the past. We have done dedicated e-cards for office moves, anniversaries, and so on. I think it's safe to say, and I'm sure Natalie would agree, that for firms, especially a large firm like Kirkland with recipients all over the world, it's sometimes difficult to nail down a holiday message that is going to work for everyone in every region.
That's very true. Yeah, we often do different foreign language versions, like you said, but it's more than just having the same words translated in a different different language. It's oftentimes more in Europe, for example, they're much more they're much more amenable to actual Christmassy language. For example, like we ran into some problems where some of the German lawyers were, I won't say outright offended, but really annoyed with our very Americanized, holiday greeting type format. So there we really sort of push the envelope more with the Christmas. And then obviously in our Asia offices, we focus more on New Year, the New Year celebrations, things like that. But yeah, we definitely do target for different regions our different different feelings.
Yeah.
Great. Natalie, this is a question for you actually. To the law firm marketing director, how do you manage sending a client a message from more than one attorney who has a contact with that client?
It can be tricky, of course, because it gets very political. If I'm understanding the question right, basically what we've done is sort of, we do a generic message in those situations. Dear, so-and-so from your friends at Kirkland and Ellis is usually how it ends up. Most attorneys are okay with this to avoid a sort of, head-on chicken fight, so to speak, over that client. But we usually sort of walk that political main line. And then oftentimes we allow them to send their own personalized messages as well. But that we have to do a lot of coordination work to make sure that we're not hitting that client with multiple different personalized. Like for example, if we have this huge name partner, and then we have an associate who also wants to send them a card, we'll override the associate request to send them a card and have it be from the personalized card from the key partner.
Thanks, Natalie. And just to add to that, you do actually have options within Concep Send and Concep Greet to use what we call merged fields and add personalization. So we did have a firm a couple of years ago where a client had 20 relationship owners, and all 20 attorneys wanted to be the signatory of this one particular client. And there were several others that had, 5, 10, some 15 relationship owners. So you can use what we call merged fields to ensure that all of those relationship owners and all of those attorneys can actually be a signatory of that particular eCard. So you do have options there when there is more than one relationship owner. So Lex, this is another question for you. Do you have clients that also create the animation in Flash and then use Concep for their email campaign tools?
I think it's kind of for both of us, right, Katie? I think, yeah, so we have had clients that have done everything. They produce it in Flash, and I guess we've given it the once over at the end to make sure that it's going to work properly on these devices. We work with them to create that high definition video. And then as far as using Concep Send to deliver the email, we can work with them to either design the template or provide them the specification to design the template. And then I guess the next step would be for them to liaise with one of our Concep account managers to develop that, upload it, work with the data and so on to ensure that that's sent out. So that's definitely an option.
All right, Lex, another question for you. You said we get the files. Does that include the FLA files so they can be customized?
Yeah, we generally don't hand over .fla files, but if there is a specific reason why or request as to why, we can look into that. If it's the case that we create the bulk of the animation and then you wish to create a number of different versions, perhaps changing the language yourself or something like that, we could look at a situation like that. But generally, our clients, even the ones that have flash resources in-house, don't really particularly want to deal with it
Definitely not.
at the end of the day. So yeah, it depends on what the the exact requirement is, but we can look at it case by case.
Great. And another question for you, Lex. What things should you take into consideration when designing your eCard if you'd like it to be mobile friendly?
Okay, so I think the biggest one here is interactivity. In the past, we could just generate flash files. We could make games and so on and so forth that have a lot of nice buttons and things that we could do. Having a video animated component has somewhat restricted that ability. But conversely, any video can be framed with HTML, and that HTML can contain any interactive elements as per any other website. Now, for mobile users, I guess everything that we do design is responsive as far as HTML, and we're actually looking at one eCard this year, which is a responsive microsite with various sections and galleries and all kinds of functionality. And a responsive site basically will, I guess, detect the device that the user is accessing it from and give the best experience. It almost restructures the page dynamically to render best in those devices. So I'd say, the best tips I would say would probably be to avoid anything with too much interactivity, unless that's the core of the concept. And aim for those simple animations. Generally, our eCards go for, I would say, anywhere between 10 to 15 seconds in length. There have been some that are longer, but we found that most of our clients and their clients enjoy a shorter experience.
Great, thanks. So another question, is there a way to link a Concep email mailing to an internal CRM database? Yes, there is. We integrate with LexisNexis Interaction, Microsoft Dynamics, CRM for Legal, Salesforce, and SalesLogic. So depending on the type of integration that you're actually looking for, we can certainly integrate with your CRM database. Another question, are you converting the flash animations to video, then framing in HTML to make responsive?
Yep, that's essentially it. So once the flash animation is completely produced and signed off, we go and render that as HD video. And because we need to render it in HD, all our flash animations are created in HD. And that process can sometimes take overnight, depending on how complex the animation is. But once we have that final HD video that's streamed via Vimeo, there's a hidden embed code, and yeah, there's basically a detect script that sits at the front end of that HTML frame. So the same URL is used to access all versions. It just detects the user on the way in and tells us which device they're using and serves up the appropriate media file.
Thanks, Lex. Okay, so that seems to bring us to the end of question time. If nobody else has any questions, I would like to thank you all for your participation in Concep Chat, the new approach for mobile eCards. If you have additional questions or you'd like to see some examples of our favourite eCards from 2012, please get in touch and we can have a more detailed discussion. We'd love to share some of those examples with you. I thank you all for your time and I look forward to mobilising your holiday eCard this year. See you on the next Concep Chat Short and Sharp webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.